has also seen the main point of the position. Okay, so this is a position from one of the most famous tournament performances of modern times. This is from a tournament where Anish Giri was one of the favorites. Yes, exactly. And before the tournament, I remember it clearly. He was so hyped. Everyone was like, "Oh, Anish Giri, this young guy. He's like up and coming." And around this time, at some point around here, he was, I think it's high up as number 2 in the rating. And if you remember, for the candidates that was played halfway through here, he actually qualified on rating because he was number 4 in the world. And Ding Liren qualified as winner of the World Cup, and Caruana qualified as the runner-up in the World Championship match. And then, of course, Magnus Carlsen doesn't play the candidates for some reason. That's probably a boycott, I don't know. So Giri was so hyped before the tournament, and he played such an interesting amount of chess. Really, really interesting chess. However, he missed a lot of winning possessions. When he was worse, he defended like a tigress defending her cubs. But when he was better, he fell for the same trick as Kevin just fell for, which is he didn't calculate well, he didn't execute well. And the reason why he made 14 draws in this tournament was not because of boring play, but because he didn't put it away. It's sort of like a football team, sorry for the metaphor, playing without a striker, without anyone shooting on the goal or able to shoot on the goal. You need someone who can put it away. In the case of Anish Giri, what he needs is the ability to calculate. And he is not very good. So at some point I was telling this to various people that this is his weakness. He's a fantastic player. Really, really very creative in the opening, very imaginative, really, really sharp play. Certainly not a boring player by any means. He takes lots of risks. If you look at his games from the candidates tournament, you can see he took lots and lots of risks. Any tournament. He certainly is a very fine positional player. He has an amazing instinct. He has a beautiful technique. But he cannot calculate. And then there's a very good question here from Arnav. Then why is he not making it better? And it's a very easy thing to explain. The things we're good at are usually the things we like doing. Partially, we like doing them because we're good at them. So yeah, exactly. He likes working on openings. This is what he likes. He likes working on openings, so he has great openings. He really likes it. Click, 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 click. He enjoys it greatly. He really, really likes sitting with the computer and looking at chess with the computer, which means that the computer is doing all the thinking for him. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's very, very useful to have the opening, have good ideas in the opening and have a lot from home. It's really, really valuable, but you also have to be able to play moves afterwards. We can also say, Raja is asking about, he's tweeting and so on and so on. I don't think that really is the issue. If he wanted to sit down and work on calculation, he would do it, and he would do it very well, and he would benefit. Of course, he would. I do think he finds it boring, simply. And he finds it hard. And yeah, it's white to play. No more hints than that. So yeah, exactly. It's also what happened in Giri against Nepomniachtchi. It's you know, a very interesting opening, and then when they started playing, Giri had an hour more on the clock or something like that, but was outplayed. So here the real question. So okay, so the best move in the position is rook e5, simply like this, and just keep everything under tap. So they put pressure on d5, defend the knight, and it's very uncomfortable for black. They will have to find many defensive moves, and eventually, with best play, should lose. So of course, everyone has seen what Ashir has said 10 times. I saw it the first time. This does not mean I want to react to it the first time. What Michael just said, what Kevin was saying, a lot of you have also mentioned why it doesn't work. Knight takes g7. This is what Giri played. You know, I was telling even Salgado that Giri could not calculate. And he was like, yeah, sure. But he didn't believe it. You know, Giri, number, I don't know, 2, 4 in the world, was going a little back and forward. Of course he can calculate. Then he was looking through some of his games, like live. And he said, yeah, you're right. He's not good at calculating. It doesn't mean he doesn't see a lot of stuff. It means that when he has these situations where he has to find the only move, no, not a psychological reason. All this psychobabble, no. It's just nonsense. Reality is that he can't do it, and he doesn't do it at home. And then when he has to switch it on during tournaments, he can't do it, even when he is very, very hungry and wants to do it. And we've seen it in many examples, and I'm going to show you some. This is not the focus of the class. The focus of the class is just the revision of the main points, which is essentially the main point of this course, which is what is calculation. So Atreya, I think you just joined because you already said rook e5 is the best move. Now we're saying to those of you who didn't see it already, why does knight takes g7 not work? So those of you who already said it, don't repeat it. Gary said, I missed the previous classes. Should I watch them in order? It is not necessary to watch them in order, but I think it's a good idea. So I do go very slowly through the main points of calculation. And then, of course, with a lot of positions. And most of you have been here all the way, so you know this already. The main point of calculation is to see the things we don't automatically see. It is really the main job we have to do. How do we see something we do not automatically see? We look for it. I wish I could make it more complicated. We need to look for it. And how do you look for something? Well, Kushal is saying it. I was going to come with a very, very awful, Jeremy, no, look at something much more basic. You should actually, Jeremy, I'm going to give you the hint. You should look if the threat really works. So there's a few things. So Aracha and Kushal is saying the same thing. It is the key point, which is you have to go so slow you are in control. Now, my usual metaphor is driving. And it's partially because I have moved into to the street where I learned to drive 10 years ago, 11 years ago even. And therefore I think about driving whenever I look out the window, and I'm looking out the window while I'm having this class. And I should say that because I don't have this background, you can see all the frozen stuff from, this used to be a girl's bedroom before we bought the house earlier this, but I also want to show you the look over the hills. This is our local street, look over the hills, and I use keyboards which are which have these little sun things, and I need 2 of them because it's Scotland, and a lot of people find that very funny. So there are some other processes that we will come through. There are many books behind me. Not that many, no, not compared to what is in the attic. So the most important point is, what is calculation? It is seeing the things we do not automatically see. Some things will come for us, some things we see. The right word is see. We look, we see, bang, they're there. Now, for you and me, great, Jeremy. For me and you and me, that's probably not very much in some cases. I know some of you maybe see more than others. For Michael Tal, it was quite a lot. For Nand, it's quite a lot. For Carsten, it's quite a lot. But still, the lack of systematic calculation are preventing them from playing the best possible chess. Now, there are many aspects to chess, and in other areas, just like Anish Giri, they are incredibly strong. And I know that when Carsten is doing calculation training, you know, he sees these most amazing things a lot of the time. When he's playing, he's much more intuitive. And I know this because I know he's used some of my books for calculation training, for example, before the match with Caruana, and his trainer sent me improvements, really wonderful improvements, I have to say. So these really amazing things. So the main point is, if we want to see things we do not automatically see, we actually have to look for something we don't see so freely. So we have to slow down. So we're in process of actually looking for extra option. So it is slow down and look for extra options. This is really, really key. Now there's another thing, and I'm going to put this out here just in the chat also, which you will get tired of me saying if you're not already. Which is these 3 steps. Find the options or look for the options. Second, analyze them. So now we decide which the options are. And here knight g7 is an option. Rook e5 is an option. Queen g4 is an option. So we analyze the options and then choose the move you like the best. The order, you see, these are not 3, you know, like asterisks or stars or something with these things on the checklist. Like, you know, when we have the 3 questions for positional decisions where the order is not really so important. And sometimes you find that the last answer to the last question redefines how the first 2 should be looked at and stuff like that. But here the order is really important. First, you need to find the options and look for what are the options in the position. Because if you do that, you will save a lot of time analyzing things that's totally irrelevant. I read a question and I lost my train of my what's it called? Strain of thought? Trail of thought? Anyway, train of thought. Thank you, Jeremy. Sometimes I feel like a foreigner in any country I am in, because essentially that's what I am. So the important thing is that we need to see these options. It will be a huge shortcut. So often. A lot of things can really be ignored. And the next thing is, then we have to analyze. I mean, we should start by analyzing the most tempting one first, because it's the most important. Maybe analyzing that is make everything clear. Here, why would we analyze rook e5 if knight g7 works? We wouldn't. There would be no point. And then the third thing is we choose the move we like the best. So in this position, as just about everybody has pointed out, in this here, as Geary played, doesn't work. But some of you have said, rushed, that here the position is a draw. The thing is, yeah, Raja is saying, if we choose which move we like the best first, what you're doing is actually you're deciding what to play and then just, I don't know, moving the pieces afterwards. So here, if you take on g7 and play e7, I play rook e8, and now you're in danger of losing. I'll play knight e7, I'll protect the d5 pawn here. And Geary, of course, realized what he had done wrong very quickly. Already, probably the moment he took on g7 was, now we take, and here we're threatening e7. So knight e7, obvious move, and then queen h5, take here, and queen h5, and the pawn will be exchanged, and we have a draw. And I actually didn't play any more moves. Yeah, queen f6 you can play, and white can play whatever, rook e2. There's no way black's gonna win here. You will exchange queens at some point, and then, you know, we will exchange. Let's say you play queen f6, I can play queen g4. And if you play knight g6, I'll play f3, or I'll play f3 immediately. Many things. You're not gonna queen f6, rook e4. Maybe that's interesting. Let's not go there. But it could be dangerous for black, yes. Let's move on with the next example. Okay. Let's try to take this one here. Here. So it is sort of the same thing. There's a few elements more advanced we can talk about. We can talk about resistance, for example. We can talk about how do you end a variation. It is, the dangerous thing is you end it with an emotional impression. You end it with, this is my idea. An idea is not a variation, it's not a calculation. Knight g7, queen g7, rook g3 is an idea. Then we analyze it by actually looking at it. What are the options? Obviously, when we see the idea, we do not see rook g5. Otherwise, it's not an idea, it's just already gone. So then we look at it, does it actually work? And it requires some discipline. That's why we train it. Things that require discipline require training. So it's very dangerous to end a variation with an emotional impulse, like, "Ooh, this looks nice," or "Oh no, he can play this. I'll just throw everything out immediately." Here, white to play. Anish Giri against Dominguez. What are our options? Let's try to do this as a group exercise. We'll just talk our way through it. So Krishna is opening up. He says king b1, king c2, king d2, and rook takes d3. Exactly, we have 4 options. So Shahid says b3. I think you have to realize your check. There was someone in the homework club this week who very sadly missed that the queen was hanging. I felt very guilty writing it on a piece of paper, which was like, okay, here your queen is hanging, and yeah, someone said knight takes e5, and I was knight takes d2, and I just felt such great sympathy. It's really sad. So here we have a complex situation. We should maybe have done this later for some. Yeah. So here, there's a few things in ways to thinking. I'm willingly going into a very complicated example very quickly, which is, what does white want to achieve? Here, what do we want to achieve? Where's the weaknesses? This is obviously a very complex position, as is a strategic problem more than calculation. You could argue it's not a critical moment in my usual sense, but we have to understand what are we trying to do, because here clearly white is trying to win. So Ritwas is starting with a conclusion. This is way too fast, way too fast. It's a very poor way to operate. Like, what are we trying? What can we achieve? What are the various scenarios we can achieve here? So those of you who like to work with computers, you can think. Gary talks about intuition. Okay, now tell me again how you solve math problems with intuition. So Václav says we'd like to exchange pair of bishops. Where do our pieces belong? Intuition in calculation is like intuition in math. It doesn't work. You need to work it out. This is what's important with critical moments where the difference, and it's a very good thing you're asking all these questions. I'm very grateful you're here today. Please keep asking and suggesting things, because this is a revision class and it reminds me of all the points mentioned earlier. Calculation is like maths on critical moments. We should not guess. We have to work it out. Intuition doesn't work for this kind of thing, because intuition is a very fast and strong method of working on things. Again, Russian is just moving straight into variations. Because I'm asking a question. Yes, intuition is emotional. It's actually pattern recognition. If you want to be very, very strict about it, which is intuition is just, oh, this looks like a triangle. But calculations say it's not a triangle. It's pattern recognition. We have this thing in our brain that is sort of like, this looks like something I've seen before. Rawr. Sounds like a tiger, I better leave. So Shahil says the rooks belong on e7. I think you can put it a better square. What's the best construction of our pieces? Now Doc hits the nail right in the bullseye. Ellen does as well. Checkmate on e8 would be great. Already many people have said the bishop belongs on c6. The rook belongs on e8. So here what we want to do is play bishop c6, rook e1, rook e8. Absolutely ideal plan. You cannot find this plan unless you look for it. Maybe if you're Magnus Carlsen and have a very good day, but you need to look for this idea. You need to find out, what am I trying to do here? Now, there are players who are technical long-term in their thinking. Magnus Carlsen is a good example, but you know, Karpov, especially if we think of players like Gelfand, Korchnoi, Botvinnik, and Rubinstein, which is sort of like the same player in 4 different spaces of time, which have a very undynamic playing style. For these players who are very, very technically inclined, they would never really want to take on d3. Now, on the other hand, if you have players like, let's say, Michael Tal, Alekhine, Andersen, let's go back to 150, 200 years. Or let's go to really, really weak current players like me, or whoever it was who suggested, I think it was it Ritvas, who suggested rook takes d3 here. It's like the dynamic thing to do. Solve the things head on, you know. But the downside of rook takes d3 is it loses the exchange, which we're up. Of course, black has dynamic counterplay here. So here, now we have to understand, I have to try to understand, we want to move the king. And there are various places to go here. So let's say we play, what's the suggestion here? King c2. What can black play? Or king d2. Let's take king d2 first. It's just suggested here. King d2. What can black play? Knight takes f2 and rook e1. And then we slow down because we want to be in control and we want to see the options. So everyone who's going a different direction right now has to see what Ellen just seen, what black wants to play in that position. No, Shahil, not that. So Shahil suggested d5, but then we have rook e7, and we still have bishop c6 as a threat. Not knight d3, also rook e7. A dog found the right move that black wants to play. Sai had a suggestion I don't like so much. Krishna's suggestion I don't like. Krishna's suggestion probably loses very, very quickly. Boris' suggestion is also not quite right. People are mentioning bishop e5. It's not quite right. White gets bishop c6. It's very unpleasant. King d2, knight f2, rook e1 is our variation. Not bishop takes b2. I think rook e7, you're in big trouble. I'm not sure. Actually, quite complicated. I'm sure that Giri got confused here. This is very, very complicated stuff. So a lot of people here are finding the move that black wants to play. Now, of course, when I choose complicated example, there always occurs new problems that I haven't thought about. Every time I look at it, it doesn't matter how many times I look at something. So this also means that there are things I have not considered happening. So here, king d2, knight f2, rook e1, and then bishop e5 is suggested, which is not in my notes, so this is why it intrigues me. And then I just thought bishop c6, and then we have slow control. The black king is trapped and so on. So, but there was actually another move. It was bishop b2, bishop c6, bishop e5. That was interesting for me, that I was confused about. So a lot of you have found the right move. Bishop d5, which both makes it possible to play knight e4 check. We're attacking the b2 pawn. We're even attacking g2 sometimes. But most importantly, it prevents bishop c6. So king d2, knight f2, rook e1, bishop d5 doesn't really work. So here we come into something we haven't talked so much about. We talk about comparison. Let's try to put the king in another variation here, like the technique of comparison in calculation. And maybe it's possible, you know, after a while, I come back with a course of complicated calculation techniques or advanced calculation techniques, or whatever the PR department chooses to call it, which is probably also me. It's like, what are the difference? What if I go here, here, here? Now I sort of understand what is happening. My opponent wants to take on f2 and prevent me from playing bishop c6. There's also someone saying it's threatening to trap the bishop. Yes, no, I don't think you can actually threaten it. So saying king b1, I watch the fork. So does king c2 also. What else is different with putting the king in these variations? Let's try to calculate our main variation. King d2, this is where we started. We have king c2, knight b4 check exists. This we have to come back and look at. But now we use for comparison. We calculate a variation. And then at any point, we can say, oh no, I put the king somewhere else. Then we can go back and see if this makes gives extra option to the opponent earlier. But first we allow this main idea to play out. If king d2, knight f2, rook e1, bishop d5, we play rook e7. What does black play? Because rook e7 is the most obvious move. You come in, you attack everything. What does black play? I don't think it's knight e4 check. Then after king e3, you have to take on g5. I take on g7. That's just winning. So Doc's got it. Everyone else is saying bishop f8. No, not bishop f8. What are you talking about? Bishop f8, I have bishop d7 check. And then rook e8. And now I have an attack. Bishop takes b2. Simply bishop takes b2. It's very important when we're playing in an ending. Everything hanging, not bishop d4. Bishop takes b2. It's a pawn. Garand, you're a dynamic player, I guess. You're trying to do something active, where in reality we should just take stuff. Bishop takes b2, and black has 2 pawns for the exchange. And he has some drawing chances. So this suggests to us that king b1 and king c2 would be better moves. And they are, for that reason. And yes, if we play king c2, maybe there's knight b4 check. And then we can play king d2. And it's and black can play knight a2. And we don't really get bishop c6. For this reason, I like king b1 better. So here we are, at so of course after king b1 there are also other options like knight b4, but here a3 just doesn't doesn't create a problem. There's check on d3, and as long as we remember not to take it, it's fine. So in the game, Geary played like this. And a6 and bishop d7, and it's just draw. So this is quite a sad affair. Okay, so let's take another example. This example is, if I can find it, was not supposed to be Geary. Here. I'd like to give you 2-3 minutes to think about what you wanted to play here. You cannot see the new position. No, this was because I've done my usual mistake, I think, of changing what I'm seeing and not changing what you're seeing. So here we are. And thank you for bearing over with me. I'm old and stupid. Mainly stupid, of course, but yes, this is I was thinking about showing this game for new games of the week or new ideas in the opening. Someone say I'm not stupid. I think we have not met. So here, how do you want to play with black? So let's do the 3-point analysis here first. We have this little, I don't like to say algorithm. Because we can always like choose one candidate, analyze it, and then go back and choose other candidates and so on. The idea is the structure that we should never end in the trap that everybody at some point in their chess development, or more or less everybody, some point in their chess development ends in, which is they're trying to make something work. So Krishna, you're missing what he played. So let's take Pablo's list of ideas here. See, you could also start with just one of these ideas. It's fine. So we have here, I send it to everyone. Pablo, I hope that's okay. It's a very good list. So we start with this list. And I'm going to sort of speed things up here a little bit because I'm going to give you Watzlaw's variation. Yeah. This is the variation Watzlaw gave. And I know some of you would have liked to find this yourself and so on. But here you could imagine that you know we have here. So Ellen is quick on the trigger here. Now calculation is so Shah needs to catch up. But in calculation is, remember, we're looking for the things we don't automatically see. Watzlaw very, very quickly and very impressively, and with absolutely no criticism from me, saw a variation, which I send out to all of you in the chat, which is rook a1, rook takes a1, queen g5 check, king b1, knight d2 check, king c1, knight b3, king b1, queen c1 check, rook takes c1, knight d2 check, king a2, and rook a8 check, and mate on the next move. And it looks very impressive. And Sam Lloyd, who has been dead for, I don't know, 150 years, he was the first really great study composer. And he declared mate in, I don't know, 7 or whatever here. But it's just false. And if my memory is not incorrect, I just checked this example. For some reason, I was looking at old examples, and I was like, oh, He declared mate. Why is my engine saying white is winning after this move? So the thing is, again, about slowing down. And a lot of you are saying, so there's a few elements here. So the thing about slowing down, looking for the things we don't automatically see. So a lot of you have seen what's wrong with this variation already. I'm going to show it in a second. For those of you who have not, and I apologize, luckily Homework Club exists to give you a lot of pain if you really want it, or there are endless amount of books, mine and others. Actually, black should just take an a3 and queen a8 and rook b8, and it's totally winning position, winning attack, slowly winning, and that's best play. It's not very interesting. So when we see a variation like this, a long forced line, and we're winning and we're sacrificing a piece, then knight e3 doesn't make a difference. You just take it. It doesn't change anything. It's one move more. Maybe it makes a difference with him how many moves it was made and declared. So what we need to do with such a long variation is we have to go slowly through it and actually look, is this forced? Is this forced? Do my opponent have something else? Does my opponent have something else? You would technically, this is what would be called verification. I like to call it falsification, even though falsification means something entirely different. But what we are trying is not to verify, to make clear that something works. What we're trying in this process is, this is too good to be true. Why doesn't it work? And if we can disprove it, if we can make it false, if we can falsify it, then we know, okay, let's not play this. So I'm just going to show here now. So check, and a lot of you have found it. And if king goes to a2, it's mate, so must go this way. So check, must go this way. And here now, in our mind, when we are like high on the you know, all the chemicals releasing, like I'm going to sacrifice my queen, I'm going to everything and everything and everything, and I'm going to be so great. And we get here. Now, if our opponent, let's say our opponent doesn't see what's wrong with our variation, which is what happened in the game, we could be lucky, as you can see the result is 0-1, that white resigns, which is what happened. However, if our opponents think, oh, that's beautiful, I'm going to allow you to make the mate, and then he like looks for the rook, and then he's like, well, wait a moment. And it's just not made. And after this move, which is the only chance, sort of like we're still threatening rook check. Here white has a nice move. Ellen's very quick. Not queen b3, not knight c7, not knight. What about knight d2? Yeah, there was perpetual check. Black had perpetual, is true. Not king a3, no. Look, so one person saw it immediately. The rest of you have not seen it. Still only one person, Alan, has seen this move. Still nobody. It's quite interesting. So this is a move here. Okay, there's many good moves. Rydberg now has the right move. This is a position with many good moves for white. Of course, he's a rook up and so on. But there's one move that is just much clearer than everything else. Vatsal has found the right move. Just look for options. So even like Shahil, Asian champion and so on, a lot of guys here struggling, finding the right move. A lot of decent moves suggested. I'm not like knight c3, I probably think is not decent, rook a8, knight a4, knight c5, or knight d4, I think you're going to lose. Yeah, Shahil now has the right move. I'm just going to give everyone a chance. So Tien has found the right move. Is it Tien or is it Chen? It's probably Chen, isn't it? Like a J sound. Aracha found the right move. The problem here is a little bit that probably a lot of moves are quite good. But there's one move that's quite right. Kushal has the right move. Okay, I'm just going to show here. Once you see this move, there's no reason to look for anything else. And it's a one move variation. You know, sometimes from homework club, I've given you one move variations you couldn't solve. It is so important. So this brings us to another revision point, which is really, really important, which is even at very high level. Well, this is Queen A6 or Queen B7, except it's with tempo. You get an extra move. It's the exact same idea, just the tempo up. So exactly, it's just an improved version. I'm sure everyone can see it. Once you see the move, it's like you cannot unsee it. Okay, I'm gonna quickly think we need to find another Anish Giri example. Let me see which one we need. There's a few options. So the examples becomes quite complicated now. So I'm gonna. Where was the perpetual? Sorry. Here, knight d2 check. But of course, you wouldn't go here to make a perpetual. So it's very likely that anyone going here would play queen c1. But then this is also the thing we talked about, you know, the 4 different types of decision. Again and again and again, I'm bringing it up until I'm kicked out of this game, which is we have automatic decisions when there's only one move. What is our thinking method when there's only one move? We look at a position, we say there's only one good move here. There's no reason to calculate, they only got one good move. What should we do? Come on, quickly, guys. We should not suggest c6, no. Queen takes b3. This is a forget the position. Yeah, stop. Boris has it. Yeah, check if there's anything else. Look for options. Slow down, look for options. This is number one. Look for options. So we should not take the draw in that position. When there's only one option in a position, should we slow down? Yeah, I closed the board. I replaced it with a new one. So you're listening to what I'm saying instead of just talking about the position. Ashia is having a medical emergency. She's losing the ability to see. So when there's automatic decisions, when there's only one move, we should check, is there really only one move? So after queen c1, which is so much our idea. By the way, someone has filled 102 things into the Q&A. I only use the chat in this. We should always check if there are other options before we make a move. We shouldn't just make a move, it's the only move. We should check, is it really the only move? And if it really is the only move, then we should just make it. So let me put up this very, very interesting example here. So in this position here, in this game between Giri and Andreikin, White missed a fantastic idea. Thank you. Here we go. Yes, oops, I did it again. And some of you who don't understand that reference, you're making me feel very young, because I thought, yeah, Aracha says it's an engine move. Now, what does an engine move actually mean? An engine move means it's a strong move that the engine found that I didn't see. It's just that. It is a chess move. There are times when we have variations which are very long and have a lot of unnatural moves. So we talk about engine variations. And it's sort of slightly different. But here, Geary had this fantastic idea that he didn't see. No, you don't worry. Nobody's going to see this in this class here. It's not going to happen. Some know, and others will not be able to find it. It's not the point of showing this example, because there is in a moment. I'm just checking my notes here. Because there is another moment. This is one of the things with calculation. Yeah, there's a book talking about human bias and computer eyes, and we have a book coming out called Think Like a Machine, where the chess in that book is really, really lovely, very interesting positions, but the author's general philosophy, I don't agree with it. But I'm a publisher. I publish interesting chess books. It is not essential for me to agree with everything. So it's white to play here. It's not essential for me to agree with everything that is in these books. When people are arguing in an interesting and fascinating way for their opinions, I should publish them. The question is not whether or not I agree with all these opinions. And they say some things I don't agree with at all. And that's fine from a publishing point of view. So here, a lot of suggestions and none of them right. Let's say just everyone try to guess different moves until it comes up, just as an exercise here. All kind of different moves. Yeah, lots of different kind of thing. And nobody has found the right move yet. Lots of stupid moves. All kind of random stupid ideas, and you haven't found the right move. This shows sometimes how difficult seeing the next move is. Geary probably had like realistically no chance seeing the next move in this position. Still nobody has. There's like 25 moves suggested. Yeah. Still not. This is everyone just essentially coming with just their weirdest moves. Rook g3 would be bad. I can guarantee that. So there's a repetitiveness going on. I know, Aracha, you know the game, but for more or less everyone else who haven't seen it before, Rook g6 will take that. So still not. Nobody has been able to even guess the idea like as an option. Aracha, you don't remember the move, okay? Yeah, no, here. So a lot of people are suggesting king moves. No, it's not a pawn move either. It's not queen takes f7. Stop smoking weed. It's bad for you. Also, I think you're 9 or something. I already said it's not a king move. It's not a pawn move. It's not a queen move. No more hints. So even for absolute, yeah, now we have the right one here. Even for absolute, top grandmasters, just seeing the next move as an option can be a huge obstacle. Krishna said he said that. Yeah, well, very early on or what? There were so many things flashing past me, I didn't see it. Okay, so rook g4. Idea is, of course, rook takes f4. 20 moves ago. Are you sure you didn't say it yesterday? Maybe you said bingo as well. I don't know. Maybe you said it. I could go back. You said it today. Okay, we'll call your friend who you said rook g4 to in a conversation. No, I'm sure you said the move and I missed it. but there's so much flash past me. I didn't see it. It's not so important. The point is that if it was said once, or if it was said no times, when 31 people or 30 people are trying to see just any guess. So the idea of the move is, if black takes, then the rook becomes activated. And Doc says, now we see the idea is easy. It's true. There's a little detail to it, and it's sort of a winning attack like this. This is very complicated stuff, of course. No, but the thing is, with rook g1, you're not threatening to play rook takes f4. This is the point. What's the defense against f3? We'll see that, because he played f3 in the game, and here black should have played queen c7, queen e7. There's a question about what happens in this line and that line. The lesson is technically already over now. So I will, Giri and Draken, you can copy it from screen. You can analyze it yourself. A lot of options, but here black could come with this. Yeah, well, we're probably not going to allow queen h8 check. But the reality is that in the game where he played rook b8 here. Now here, if you play rook g4, I play queen f2. You come back again, I go back again. Draw. I'm not saying there's really any easy way of finding this rook g4 move. For me, it's just incredible move. Actually, if you played rook g4, it wins 2 tempos. So here, this is the really interesting point in the game, where before there was this fantastic thing that, yeah, in training and so on, but in time trouble or with 10 minutes, 15 minutes and so on, it's not likely we'll find it. But here again, to return to the argument of why Giri cannot calculate is, now look, white to play here. White to play. What's black's idea? What's black? Let's try to do this. What would black play if to play? What would black play? Correct, Vatsa. Queen d8. Try to get the queen away from f6. We're going to lose the h pawn. That's fine. We cannot save everyone. But if we can save the king, we're some way. So here, look for options for white. There are not so many pieces on the board. And here, one of the key ideas of looking at different ideas is that if you look for options, so some people are suggesting king h3, but after queen c7, then the queen will give a check and go to e6. Maybe we'll play rook b3 or something on the way, and we're sort of escaping. Yeah, white doesn't have unlimited time. There's no time for h5. h5 or play queen d8. Next move, rook b5, a draw. Well, rook g7, queen f2, rook g2, queen b6. Congratulations, Jeremy. From a very big advantage, you have managed to make a draw. You are the next Giri. Someone says, but I think queen d8 is unstoppable. It's maybe unstoppable, but it's not good against everything. Rook d2 is what Giri played, and after rook e8, black was fine. Aratya found the move. It's not a surprise that it's an active move. Rook g4, queen f2, no progress. Queen c2, we can play rook e8 or queen d8. It's fine. Now, if you guys are finding the right move, and I'm going to go and have a dinner, so I'm going to show it to you here. So the move Giri missed was e5, creating a real threat. Krishna says he said that too. This time I'm scrolling up. Maybe you said it very late. Yeah, you said it after Aratya. Anyway, this class is not about shout out for Krishna. Though I have to say, one of my best friends here in Glasgow is called Krishna. So I'd like to give a shout out to him. Someone is asking, what would be the best book or material to start solving this problem? Seeing the options. Of course, I should recommend my own books like Calculation and so on. Is very good. But this book here, let me get it right. I recommend this very highly. I know that it's reprinted and out with a new cover, but it has the same title, Imagination in Chess. I love this book. At some point, because this was not a very successful book. It's from Batchford, which seems to be a company that specializes in chess books and producing toilet paper. And sometimes it's not clear in which section their material belongs. How hard is it? What level? It's probably, I found it very useful. I given to people with 22, 2300. Found it very useful. I would recommend for those who have access to it and who are, let's say, less than 2000, there are books in the series called the Step Method. Now, the Step Method starts with, volume 1, and the endless amount of like 1A and 1+ and all these kind of things. And I'm not very happy with the early books in that series, really. But the Woodpecker is a great place to start. It's a very good book. But also the Step Methods books for like Jeremy is, I think you're in the UK. I haven't completely gone insane here. I generally don't recommend doing books again. Again, the Woodpecker Method is the idea of someone else. I'm not very keen on it. But I'm also not against it. I'm basically in favor of everything people want to do for improving chess that keeps them excited about it. So the Step Method, book 5 and 6, which are actually a level of 1800, 2000 rated, has a number of good exercises. Someone's asking what will be my next book. I'm currently finishing 2 books with Boris Gelfand. By the way, I want to show a few details here. D5, we have E6, it's very nice. So, but the Step Method books is like £7.50, £8, something like that for volume 5. Will really help you, Jeremy. I used to have a copy that I could show, but I gave it away to someone, a student rated 2000, who asked me what should I do. And that was my recommendation. So here E6 is a big threat. There's other threats as well. The only critical move, the only move we're afraid of, London Chess Center will have it for sure, is check. And now we have opening up the king's position. Again, the queen cannot go in between. We take the rook. And if you go back into the corner, you are in great danger. For example, queen G7 check is very unpleasant. And here we have variations that look like this. And it's probably time to resign. I'm not sure about king f8, rook e2. But king f8, queen g7, we get a very strong attack. So e5, king d8. Actually, it's not in the notes. I was thinking about it as well. I was thinking potentially queen g7 with the idea of e6. Also potentially queen h8 and e takes d6. The queen h6 is very natural because then we don't have king e8 problems. Shahil comes with a good solution. I want to have dinner, so let's just end with that. We have here. Now the rook comes in with absolutely deadly effect. And if this, then we have here, and it's time to resign. Game over, lesson over. I want to repeat this to a lot of you. Homework clubs, you use a real chessboard for all positions. It is my very strong recommendation to everyone that if you do not solve an exercise after 1-2 minutes, then a board is better. You want to prepare for playing over the board chess. Not to solve in 2D, but in 3D, because that's what you're going to do in a tournament. It also gives another seriousness to it. But if you solve things very quickly, or can solve some positions very quickly, there's no reason to spend time putting the pieces up. Will the homework club generally be more tougher than it has been previously? No, sorry, this was a more difficult one than usual. So I'm keeping up the homework club for the previous lesson until tomorrow, maybe later tonight, because some people still want to have the chance to review it and so on. But I think close to the time we're taking the lesson down, it's time to take the sheet down and replace it with the next one, which is made and ready to go up. As you can imagine, it's a good deal of work to do it, but I think it's very valuable for you guys, which means that in a financial sense, hopefully you'll keep giving me your money, and therefore it will be valuable to me. If nothing else, I like helping. And again, my apologies for this week being very difficult. Doc and Boris, who are both here tonight, made around 7 each. I think Boris was 6.75. Doc was 7. They're both around 2,300 rated. Thank you very much. I'm going to run off. So if you want to do the homework club, know that it's difficult. Concentrate. Don't necessarily do everything. And I will see some of you on Tuesday, and the rest of you I will see maybe at the last class of this lesson. Thank you very much.